Vancouver, once hailed as one of the most desirable places to live, now finds itself teetering on the edge of an unprecedented crisis. The city's housing market, which was once seen as a symbol of wealth and prosperity, has been shattered by a series of devastating failures. The cause of this collapse? A ticking time bomb that few saw coming, the city's building lifespan crisis. What was once considered a booming real estate market, where thousands of condos and homes were being bought and sold at breakneck speed, is now crumbling under the weight of aging infrastructure. Vancouver's skyline, once a beacon of modernity, is starting to show cracks, literal cracks, that threaten to bring down entire buildings. As thousands of aging structures are deemed unsafe, Vancouver finds itself facing a monumental decision: demolish these buildings before they collapse on their own, or risk a catastrophe that could destroy the city's real estate market and its economy. In 2024, reports indicated that over 3,000 buildings across the city are expected to be demolished in the next few years, with the vast majority of them being high-rise buildings, residential complexes, and even several commercial properties. These structures were primarily built in the 1,950 seconds and 1,960 seconds, during a period when the city was growing rapidly and developers were in a rush to meet the demand for housing. However, the harsh reality is that these buildings, which were once considered state-of-the-art, have outlived their usefulness. Many of these buildings are no longer structurally sound, their foundations are crumbling, and their electrical and plumbing systems are outdated and dangerous. The cause of this crisis lies in the rapid construction and lack of long-term planning. Vancouver, a city that prides itself on being environmentally conscious and forward-thinking, overlooked the importance of building longevity. While the city's infrastructure expanded at an exponential rate during the 20th century, no one predicted that these buildings would begin to show signs of wear and tear so soon. The crumbling of Vancouver's buildings is not just a matter of aesthetics. It poses a significant risk to the safety of its residents. The cost of maintaining these aging buildings has skyrocketed, and the government is struggling to keep up with the mounting expenses. Many of these buildings are now deemed structurally unsound, and the only solution is to demolish them before they collapse under their own weight. This crisis has sent shockwaves through Vancouver's real estate market. For years, Vancouver was considered a safe haven for real estate investors. Prices soared, fueled by an influx of foreign money, and many people saw their investments grow exponentially. However, now, many investors are left with properties that are unsellable and, in some cases, unsafe to live in. The city's housing stock is rapidly shrinking, and demand for new construction is rising at an alarming rate. Developers, once eager to build in Vancouver, are now facing financial ruin as they struggle to keep up with the costs of demolishing these old structures and rebuilding them. Many are opting to walk away from their projects, unwilling to invest in a market that is increasingly unstable. The political ramifications of this crisis cannot be overstated. The government, which has long been focused on tackling Vancouver's housing affordability issues, is now faced with a far more pressing concern: how to address the aging infrastructure before it destroys the city's economy. Politicians have been scrambling to find a solution, but the problem is too big and too urgent for any quick fixes. With the city's real estate market in free fall, the political fallout is already beginning to unfold. Vancouver's mayor, who was once lauded for his efforts to tackle the city's housing crisis, is now facing intense scrutiny as he grapples with the ramifications of the building lifespan crisis. The political pressure is mounting, and no one seems to have a viable plan to stop the collapse. The financial toll of this crisis is staggering. The cost of demolishing and rebuilding these thousands of structures is estimated to be in the billions. Vancouver's budget, already stretched thin due to other ongoing projects, simply cannot handle this expense. As a result, the government has been forced to make difficult choices, including cutting funding for other vital services and projects. The cost of housing in the city has skyrocketed as demand outpaces supply, and many Vancouver residents are being priced out of their own homes. Renters, who once had the option of finding an affordable place to live, are now facing the prospect of eviction as the buildings they live in are condemned. The middle class, who relied on Vancouver's booming real estate market to build wealth, is now watching their dreams of homeownership slip away. But the human cost of this crisis is even more devastating. For many Vancouver residents, their homes are not just a place to live, they are their most significant investment. Homeownership is a central part of the Canadian dream, and for many families, their homes represent financial stability and security. But now, for thousands of people, that dream has turned into a nightmare. Entire neighborhoods are being displaced as the buildings that once housed their families are demolished. The emotional toll on these residents is profound. Families who have lived in Vancouver for generations are now being forced to uproot their lives and find new homes. Some of these residents have lived in their homes for decades, and the thought of leaving is a devastating one. The stress of trying to find a new home, coupled with the financial burden of rising rents and housing costs, is taking a toll on the mental health of many Vancouverites. The crisis is also having a profound effect on the city's economy. Vancouver has long been a hub for business and tourism, but with the destruction of so many buildings, the city's commercial real estate market is beginning to falter. Businesses that once thrived in the heart of the city are now being forced to relocate or close down altogether. The loss of so many commercial properties is leading to a decline in jobs, and the local economy is starting to feel the strain. The tourism industry, which once brought in billions of dollars every year, is also suffering. With so many areas of the city being torn down and rebuilt, tourists are being deterred from visiting Vancouver, and businesses are losing valuable revenue. The once thriving economy is now facing an uncertain future. But perhaps the most concerning aspect of this crisis is the complete failure of the system that was supposed to prevent it. For years, city planners, developers, and government officials ignored the warning signs. The focus was always on building more housing to meet the demand, but no one stopped to consider the long-term impact of these decisions. As the buildings began to age, there were few regulations in place to ensure their safety or longevity. Now, the city is paying the price for its short-sightedness. The building lifespan crisis has exposed the cracks in Vancouver's planning and development systems, and there are no easy solutions. What makes this crisis even more alarming is the fact that it is not confined to Vancouver alone. Cities across Canada are grappling with similar issues. Toronto, Calgary, and even Montreal are seeing the effects of aging infrastructure, and many other cities are facing the same crisis. Vancouver, however, has become the epicenter of this disaster, and it is a warning to other cities about the dangers of unchecked urban growth. The building lifespan crisis is not just a Vancouver problem, it is a national issue that needs urgent attention. The longer the government waits to address it, the worse the situation will become. As this crisis continues to unfold, the question remains, what comes next? Vancouver's real estate market is already in freefall, and the financial toll of the building lifespan crisis is only just beginning to be understood. Developers, investors, and homeowners are all caught in a downward spiral, and there seems to be no way out. The city's future is uncertain, and the human cost of this crisis is immeasurable. But one thing is clear: the time for action is now. If Vancouver is to survive this crisis and rebuild its shattered housing market, the government, developers, and residents will need to come together and find a solution before it's too late. The clock is ticking, and the future of Vancouver hangs in the balance. As Vancouver grapples with the collapse of its real estate market, the aftermath of the building lifespan crisis is beginning to reveal its full scale. The problems once thought to be isolated to a handful of aging structures are now seen as part of a much larger issue that threatens to reshape the entire city. The magnitude of this crisis is unprecedented in Canadian real estate, and Vancouver's once booming property market is now on the brink of complete collapse. One of the most pressing concerns is the sheer volume of buildings that are now being deemed unsafe. As more and more structures begin to show signs of severe deterioration, the city's demolition and redevelopment efforts are ramping up. However, with an estimated 3,000 buildings in danger of being demolished in the coming years, the cost of rebuilding and addressing the housing crisis is spiraling out of control. The city simply does not have the resources to address such an immense problem on its own. What was once a city of luxury condos, sleek office buildings, and cutting-edge design is now crumbling before the eyes of its residents and investors alike. What's even more alarming is that the crisis goes beyond just the physical infrastructure. Vancouver's housing affordability crisis has only been exacerbated by the forced demolitions and the subsequent rebuilding efforts. As more buildings are destroyed, the cost of housing continues to rise. The demand for housing in Vancouver has far outstripped supply for years, but now, with thousands of homes and buildings set for demolition, the supply is dwindling even further. Developers are scrambling to build new homes, but the costs are astronomical. High construction costs, rising interest rates, and an overwhelmed real estate market have made it nearly impossible for many to afford a home. The middle class is being squeezed out of the market, with many Vancouverites now facing the terrifying prospect of being priced out of their own city. This issue is further compounded by the challenges faced by renters. With buildings being demolished at an alarming rate, those who have rented in the city for years are now facing displacement. For many renters, the idea of finding a new place to live in Vancouver is becoming an impossible dream. The cost of rent is rising to unsustainable levels, and available rental units are quickly disappearing as more buildings come down. What was once an affordable city to live in is now becoming a distant memory for those who can no longer afford the soaring rents. Entire neighborhoods are being torn apart, with renters left with no place to go. Some have been forced to move into substandard living conditions or to leave the city entirely. The emotional toll on these residents is profound, as they are forced to leave behind their homes, communities, and livelihoods. For homeowners, the situation is no better. Many Vancouver residents who invested in real estate during the city's boom years are now left holding properties that are becoming increasingly difficult to sell. The value of their homes has plummeted, and some are now underwater on their mortgages. These homeowners are faced with a brutal choice. Either continue to hold onto their properties and hope for a recovery that may never come, or sell at a loss and walk away. But even selling may not be an option for many. With demand for housing dropping and no buyers in sight, some homeowners are stuck, unable to move or find a buyer willing to pay what their property is worth. While many are left scrambling to find answers, the political response has been nothing short of chaotic. The city's leadership is under intense scrutiny as Vancouver's housing crisis deepens. The mayor, once hailed for his progressive housing policies, has come under fire for failing to adequately address the city's aging infrastructure. What was once a city built on innovation and growth is now grappling with the consequences of poor urban planning and oversight. The government's inability to prevent the deterioration of so many buildings has left many questioning whether the city can ever recover from this crisis. Even more concerning is the lack of a cohesive plan to solve the crisis. The political debate over how to address the building lifespan issue has created a sense of gridlock in Vancouver's government. While some argue that the solution lies in building new infrastructure to replace the old, others believe that the city needs to focus on renovating and repurposing existing buildings to reduce demolition and preserve historical structures. However, the financial and logistical challenges of such a large-scale undertaking are overwhelming. The city does not have the funds to support such ambitious projects, and the need for quick action only grows more urgent by the day. The real cost of the building lifespan crisis, however, goes beyond just finances. Vancouver's once thriving economy is now showing signs of strain as the housing market continues to crash. The city's commercial real estate market has been hit especially hard. As more buildings are demolished, businesses are being forced to relocate or shut down entirely. The commercial real estate sector is facing a major downturn, with office space in particular becoming more difficult to rent or sell. Many businesses that once called Vancouver home are now packing up and leaving for other cities, where the real estate market is still more stable. The loss of these businesses is devastating for the local economy, as it means lost jobs and fewer opportunities for growth. The tourism industry is also suffering. Vancouver, once a major international tourism destination, has seen a significant drop in visitors in recent years. Tourists, drawn by the city's natural beauty and vibrant cultural scene, are now finding themselves disappointed by the state of the city's infrastructure. With so many buildings in disrepair and major landmarks being demolished, Vancouver is no longer the city it once was. Many travelers are opting to visit other Canadian cities, like Toronto and Montreal, where the real estate market is still thriving. The loss of tourism revenue is further exacerbating the economic downturn, leaving Vancouver with fewer resources to invest in revitalizing the city. However, the most worrying aspect of this crisis is that it is not isolated to Vancouver. Other Canadian cities are facing similar problems with aging infrastructure, and many are starting to see the same issues arise in their own real estate markets. Toronto, Calgary, and Montreal are all grappling with the challenges of maintaining and renovating aging buildings. As more cities across the country face similar issues, the long-term impact on Canada's housing market could be catastrophic. What Vancouver is experiencing is merely the tip of the iceberg. This building lifespan crisis is a national issue that demands urgent attention and action. The question remains, what will Vancouver's future look like? With the building lifespan crisis continuing to spiral out of control and no clear solution in sight, Vancouver is facing a difficult road ahead. The city's once thriving real estate market is now on the brink of collapse. and it's unclear whether Vancouver can ever recover from the damage that has been done. What is certain, however, is that the impact of this crisis will be felt for years to come. The human cost of this crisis, the emotional toll on displaced residents, the financial burden on homeowners, and the loss of business and tourism will leave a permanent mark on Vancouver's legacy. This is a critical moment for the city. Vancouver's future, and the future of its residents, rests in the hands of those who are willing to take bold action to address the issues at the heart of this crisis. The time to act is now before it's too late. What do you think of the Vancouver housing crisis? Leave a comment below with the number 1 and let us know your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more updates on this crisis and other pressing issues facing Canada's real estate market.